Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about the temperature pattern over the central and eastern United States for the next about 7 or 8 days. We're going to be covering again just strictly the temperatures, so we're not going to be talking about anything related to snow in this video, although there are some models who are already indicating some amount of snowfall into the central United States and the eastern United States. I'm not going to cover that in today's video, nor will I cover that in the next couple of videos, just because it is still a little bit too far out. So if those models are being a little bit more accurate, or if they are still showing that by the next 3 or 4 days, then maybe I'll make a video on those snow events. But for right now, I'm just going to stick to the temperatures because those are going to be a lot more accurate. For right now, again, we're just talking about the temperatures. This week is probably going to be a little bit more on the milder side compared to last week, but as we get into the week after, especially for the eastern United States, we're going to have a rather noticeably colder pattern move through. So let's start off with our weather photo of the day, and this one actually was more of a video that Jack sent in from central or southern New Hampshire. So I just took 3 screenshots just because there's no way for me to actually show a video on this YouTube channel, so I can't really import a video onto here. So instead I just took 3 screenshots from that video and then just put it up here, and I think it is a pretty interesting video when you do watch it, because he kind of pans around the entire area and you're able to see the snow actually falling. I'm assuming that this area right here is a driveway because you do have a car, although I'm not 100% sure, of course, and you can see that that snow is piling up all the way to the middle part of the tire. And this is right in the middle of the storm, because you can see even on the pictures, but also on the video, that you have this snowfall still falling at a very heavy rate. So you're at least in the middle or latter part of the system. So not all of it has fallen at this point. And he says that around 32 inches of snowfall fell during the storm. This was not from any recent storm. This is from December 17th, 2020. So again, nothing that happened this year or anything like that. But of course, it is still an interesting photo. You can see, of course, all that snow piling up. And then also you can see that the snow is getting fairly high up here on the door, on the screen door right here. So again, just indicating how much snowfall fell during that event. So definitely that would be something that you need to use the snowblower for, unless you were going to spend like 6 hours shoveling that snow. Snowblower would definitely be the best way to go with that type of system. And I think somebody already shoveled away some of it, but actually accumulated more, because you can see a little tunnel which was dug through here. So maybe they dug maybe a little pathway right there, but it got covered up again with another 12 inches of snowfall. So really cool video and photos sent in here by Jack from southern or central New Hampshire. If you guys have any photos that you want to send in, send them over to my email address, which is elitheweatherguyyt@gmail.com. It's also in the description down below, and then if you send that in, just put a general area where that was taken from. So like Jack did, southern or central New Hampshire. It does not have to be a town name, does not have to be anything specific, but just a general area, so that it would be a little bit more, we can have a little bit more detail on the photo. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. Really nothing too major going on. We have a few freeze watches in northernmost Georgia, a couple wind advisories in Wyoming and Montana, and a few more freeze watches into northwestern California. But again, other than that, really we don't have a lot else going on. Yesterday we had a high temperature of 95 degrees 13 miles west of Winter Haven, California, with a low temperature of 9 degrees on Mount Washington, New Hampshire. The highest rainfall report was 3.99 inches in taken from Jim Hogg County Airport in Texas. And then the highest snowfall report was in Mansalona, Michigan, where they got 5 inches of snowfall. That's all the way in the northern lower peninsula where they got that snowfall report from. So here's a look at the low temperatures, and we're going to take you through the next few days throughout this week. We're starting off the weekend with a rather chilly day for the eastern United States. We have some 30s and 20s during the morning hours on Saturday, which would be November 6th. It's also somewhat chilly for the Northwest, and it's a little bit more on the milder side as you get through the central U.S. where you're not really in any state of troughing or cold air. Moving this through Sunday, you can see that cold stays in for the east, but it is going to start to get kicked out. So by, I would say, Tuesday or Wednesday, we're going to see that this warm air, which is right in the central U.S. by this point, is going to be moving into the eastern United States, and this cold air, which is in the northwest, is going to be moving into the central United States. So eventually this cold air will move again into the northern plains, and then eventually, once it's up here, it'll move down into the eastern United States. So it's going to continue to move on throughout the country. As we move this on to Monday, you can see that we still have some colder temperatures for the northeast, but mainly for the northwest and the northern plains is where we're starting to see that push of cold air. This will be by Monday, November 8th. Here's November 9th, so you can see not a lot changes. What's happening here is that the European model is predicting some sort of storm into these areas. So you have your little low pressure system right here. It's dragging up warmer temperatures to the south of it, and then it's dragging down some colder temperatures on the northern side. So that's what's really playing into the low temperature pattern for these areas. It is starting to become a little bit milder into the east, so we're not dealing with as cold of temperatures. And then if we move this on to Wednesday, which would be November 10th, you can see that we do have still some colder temperatures for the northwest and the northern plains, still staying mild for the east. Again, next week is actually going to be fairly nice for the eastern United States. So you ended off the work week with some rather cold temperatures, and it was a few degrees below normal, but you're going to actually start off the next work week with some pretty mild temperatures, and it should be a fairly nice week overall. The week after, however, we'll see these cold temperatures move into the east, and you guys will have to deal with some 30s and 20s once again. Now, if we look at the upper air map, it's going to give you a better idea of what's actually happening. So if we start this off with Saturday, you can see that we have your low pressure system into the southeast, but even though you have orange colors indicating ridging or some amount of higher height anomalies in the northeast and the Great Lakes, that's really not showing you what's actually happening. We have this low pressure again in the southeast, which is meaning that we have to drag in some colder temperatures from the north. So these areas in the eastern United States will actually be a little bit colder than normal as we get into Saturday and maybe even lingering into Sunday. But as we move on to Monday, you can see that this area of ridging really takes over for much of the east, with low pressure dominating the western United States. So we have troughing into the west, we have ridging up over the central and east of the country, and then that's really not going to move too much. The only area that might transition from warm to cold this week is going to be the northern plains, but the rest of the country will basically stay either in a cold or a warm pattern. We're not going to see too much shifting around. Moving this on to Tuesday, you can see that we have a little bit of a trough into the northern plains. This is your low pressure system that would be bringing in any rain or snow, and again, we might cover that in a couple of future videos, but as of right now, I'm not going to cover it in too much depth. And then we have still your high pressure system for the northeast, so still staying fairly mild for these areas. And then we have troughing into the northwest, so it's still rather chilly or colder than normal into those spots. Now, if we move this on to Wednesday of next week, you can see that this troughing is now eventually going to start to move on from being all the way over the west and into the northwest, and it's now going to start to move into some of the plains. So this is going to set up basically a colder pattern as we start to get into Sunday and Monday of next week. So from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it should be fairly warm into the east, but with the emergence of this new trough in the west, once that moves further to the east, it will start to cool down this entire pattern. So you can see this low pressure system generally bringing in colder temperatures for much of the west, and then once we move this on to Thursday, that moves into the central United States. You have ridging on either side, so you have this big trough, and then you have ridging into the northeast and along the west coast. And then, even if we were to play this forward a little bit more, just skipping ahead, just to show you, you would have that same system move from areas like Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas, and it would eventually dip down into the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley, where these areas would now be in a fairly deep trough and a fairly deep area of cold air, and that's also being forecasted by and also happening because of this high pressure system in parts of Canada and the Northwest. So the further north that this gets, the further south that this will get. So if this high pressure system is maybe all the way up into Western Canada, well, now this low pressure system has to match it, but in an inverse. So it has to be the opposite of whatever this high pressure system is. So it's going to be a fairly deep trough all the way down into the Gulf states. So the more intense that this high pressure system becomes, the more intense that this low pressure system will become, and because of that, we'll have colder temperatures in the east, warmer temperatures out west. So overall, it's going to be a fairly interesting pattern in terms of how this sets up, because not only do you have to watch where the trough is going to be, but you also have to watch out for how strong both of these systems will be, including the high pressure and the low pressure. So really interesting pattern. We will be making a couple more videos on this upcoming pattern over the next few days, but for right now, we're going to leave it off for here. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Again, I'm probably going to cover this system and these couple of storms for over the next couple of days. So we're probably going to have a few more videos on the temperature, but especially as we get into next week, we'll probably cover whatever snow or rain events happen in the central or eastern United States. So again, that is going to wrap it up for today's video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.